are stories that connect us to ourselves and each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid, wild colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. And now, exclusively on KGRA Radio, I give you your host for Soul Wanderings Radio. Here's AJ.
I do want to share with you guys, because it is the new year, I had this incredible opportunity reading. I don't know if you guys remember, and I'm pretty sure you do, because we've had requests to already have this guest back, even before the show was over. But I had a reading with Robert Lindsay Milne, and he was a few episodes back. He's a world-renowned psychic who completely showed up vulnerable on our show and shared his incredible journey story from abuse to living on the streets to offering readings in hotels and with all different types of people. And the chat room was blowing up with what an incredible story he shared. It was a really cool time. But I had the immense pleasure of spending some time with him this week at the beginning, like it was on Monday, so the beginning of this year. And I have to tell you, I've had a lot of readings in my life, a lot. I have the privilege to be surrounded by a lot of psychic mediums, and they're all very different and gifted in their own ways. But Robert has been one of a kind in my world. I've never, ever had a reading like I had with him. He gave me a reading about my whole entire life to the very end. The whole entirety, like everything from details from about my past, my present, and going forward in my future, where my energy is now. And being an intuitive myself, I've already felt a lot of these same experiences that will be happening for me, and he validated all of them, and it was just really incredible. I just sat there, I didn't say a word, I didn't give him any clues. That's just how I like to receive readings, just sit there and take it all in. And I just have to tell you, it was such a beautiful and unique experience. So I highly recommend, if any of you are looking for some direction or validation or clarity of any kind, or whatever that looks like for you, reach out to Robert. He was incredible. And I'll post in the chat room his website in case you didn't grab it during the show. But it is RLM Reads You. So Robert Lindsay Milne Reads You.com. Go and check out his website once again, and if you feel inclined to get a reading, I highly recommend it. For those of you new to the show, make sure you guys are in the chat room with us. The chat room is a great place for you to ask questions for our guests tonight. And I also hang out in there. You can visit with myself and other wanderers. Head on over to KGRADB, so that's digitalbroadcasting.com, and click on the chat button. And we'll see you there. It's KGRADB.com. So I'm delighted to have you guys here with us tonight. Let's get right into it. I know our guest has a lot to share with us, and we're both excited and happy to be here with you tonight. So let's get going. Jason Hewlitt is our guest, and he's an author, journalist, broadcaster, and podcaster with a degree in filmmaking and film studies. He has more than a decade's experience as an investigator and researcher. He himself has experienced paranormal phenomenon since childhood and went on his first ghost hunt in 2003. Jason conducted his own investigations until joining Vancouver Paranormal Society in 2017, where he is now a lead investigator and society director. But there's more. We're going to talk about his book. We're going to talk about his, I guess you would call it a reality show, and more, his journey story. Hello, Jason. Welcome to the show.
Hey, AJ. How's it going?
So good. I'm excited to have you here. Everything you do is right up my alley. Can't wait to hear about your journey.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to be here and to be able to talk about it with you. Yeah, this is neat. I love coming on shows and talking to people who've had similar experiences and are believers, as you know, or want to believers sometimes, as I like to call them.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, want to believe that will be a topic of tonight's discussion for sure. With every guest that I have on the show, I always like to have a little bit of back history of who you are, so we can get a real good idea and get in touch with who you are as an individual. Like, what was your upbringing like? What do you believe in? What are some experiences that stick out that developed you as an adult and a human as who you are today?
Well, I've never been asked the question quite that way before, which is kind of neat.
I like to dive
we are the product. Deep. Good. No, as a former journalist, I appreciate that. You need to know your subject very well. I'm a Canadian, so I grew up in sort of a small Canadian city, with mom and a dad, etc. The usual kind of upbringing. My dad was a contractor builder. My mom was a teacher. So the two very different backgrounds that way. And mom was very sort of strict and authoritarian. My dad was more freewheeling and just kind of more open-minded about life. And we weren't really religious, although we came from a Protestant background, but we didn't practice it. So it was religion and spirituality weren't particularly big in my upbringing at all, although my grandparents were. But I guess sort of that kind of started to change when I was 19 and my father passed away. He had a heart attack. So kind of without warning, he was there in the morning and he was gone by supper time. And I think when you have experiences like that, it really has you questioning why and what happens afterwards. And I'd say that's really where, not initially, but with sort of the grief passed and I started trying to process everything, I started to kind of wonder more what's going on. I'd always been interested in like the paranormal before that as a kid. More into like Bigfoot. We live in Bigfoot country where I live, so I was always sort of fascinated by the prospect of Bigfoot. We're 2 hours away from Lake Okanagan where there's Ogopogo, so I was kind of more into the monsters. But when my father died, I started to wonder more about what life after death and can people come back as spirits and that kind of thing. So it really was the defining, I think, moment in my journey in terms of wanting to just sort of find out more. And I was lucky that I had a close friend of mine, Mike Stewart, who also was very much into ghosts and the supernatural. So he and I really started talking and doing our own little research projects that way in terms of wanting to find out more of what's going on out there. That's for sure.
So it's something you definitely were drawn to from the beginning. What were some of your experiences before your dad passed, though? You said you were interested even before that, like as a child. Yeah,
there was two. One, when I was about 5 or 6, I was meeting. My mom and I had gone to one of my friend's places. He was going to sleep over, so I was waiting in the car, and she went up to the house to collect my friend and was talking to the mom. So I was the only one in the car, and I was kind of just hanging out in the back seat, looking around. And I remember looking out the back window. The street was empty; there was nobody on it. But then suddenly there was this face in the window. It was a creepy face. I always described it as kind of like a mongoloidish sort of face. And it was not there, then it appeared, and then it was gone. Kind of like that, you know what I mean? And it just it startled me. I remember being so scared I dove to the floor of the car in the back seat. And I kind of heard footsteps approach, and I looked up, and it's my buddy, and John. And I go like, were you around the back of the vehicle? And he's like, no, I just got here. I'm like, did you see anyone? He's like, no, there was no one around. Like, I still remember this. I'm 48. And I was like, you're looking like 42 years ago. I still remember it really clearly. And then my mom came up and I asked her if she saw anyone. She says no. And she's like, you probably just imagined it. She was a teacher, so she didn't. Yeah.
As adults do to children when they see things out of the norm.
Exactly. I try not to do that with my son now.
Good.
But yeah, that was sort of the first thing, and it stuck with me. And every time I tell the story, because it's one that talk about your early experiences. I talk about it a lot. It always gives me sort of goosebumps. So it was sort of the first real weird thing that kind of happened. The next happened, I was about 13 or 14, with my buddy Mike. And growing up, my parents had a cabin on a lake about an hour and a half from town. And we go out there quite frequently as a family. And I'd always bring a friend for a weekend or a week or however long we were going out there. And Mike and I were out there. And this being sort of the 80s, we were free range children. My parents didn't care. Go in the woods, play, you're fine, be back for lunch and dinner. And then even after dinner, if it was light enough. So we went out after dinner one night. We always would take into the woods the same path, in and out, every time, past the same trees, same road, everything. And when we were heading up into the woods at this point, we passed one of the trees and we happened to look down. Underneath the tree was a little fire pit that wasn't there earlier in the day, a little lean-to, and a bone there. And it really startled us. And so we were kind of like, what's going on? And it's kind of getting dark. And you're like, you know what? Like, let's just go back to the cabin. We turned around and went back.
I would be going back for sure.
Because it was just, we'd never seen anything like that before. And so, but whatever that was the talk of the night. So we were up like half the night talking about it. What could it be? Blah, blah, blah. So next morning, as soon as we could, we got up, we got dressed, we went running back up the trail to that spot. Nothing. No sign anything had been there. In fact, there's pine needles completely covering the ground. And so that was sort of the second really big thing that kind of happened. And there was never really anything after that until after my father passed away. But we always would talk about it, Mike and I, and I'd always read every kind of article I could come across. And then when my father passed away, that's when I was getting more into wanting to, as much as I could, explore what was going on and getting into Ouija boards and stuff like that, sort of in my late 20s, just talking more to people, going to like psychic fairs and just trying to find stuff out. And it just went. And but I never really started doing any kind of investigations to 2003. So a good, 12 years after my dad had passed away. So it was a bit of a trek to get there because he died in 91. So
usually you have this moment after someone close to you passes of life, like you question life, like where did he go? What do I believe in? What happens now? Like, life questions that we ask ourselves in general, but when someone close passes, they're probably a little bit deeper. Did you have a belief system before your dad passed and after he did that change, or did you have one afterwards, or do you even now?
I think like a lot of people, I waffle on that. I know before he died, like I said, we grew up Protestant, but we didn't practice. So the concept of like a God and a devil and an afterlife was always sort of in my consciousness, but I never really paid it much mind. I was a kid. I was, kind of enjoying, just movies and playing with my friends and that kind of thing. I was always more interested in being a writer.
Bigger priorities.
So I was kind of more just, telling stories and, girls and all that kind of stuff. And then after he died, like I didn't really believe in much of anything. And I remember like my mom telling me when dad died, you got to get mad at God. You got to get mad at him for taking your dad. And I'm like, I don't even know if I believe in a God. You know what I mean? Like how do I get mad at something? I don't even know if it exists at this point. Right. So that was sort of a big, I think that contributed to not dealing with it very well. Like I didn't really seek any kind of professional help until like 2005, you know what I mean? Much later, like it was sort of, the early 2000s. And then, again, sort of in 2012 kind of thing to really start sorting through, especially after my mom passed away recently in 2018. But I definitely started having experiences and seeing things sort of in the early 2000s. I remember my dad built the house I grew up in, and my mom and I lived in it long after he died. And I eventually moved out and moved to the coast, to Vancouver and traveled and all this kind of stuff. But I ended up back in Kamloops where I live and taking over the house when she moved out in sort of 2000. And I started having stuff happen at the house. My dad's workshop was downstairs. And I was taking over the bedroom that he and my mom had shared. So it was like the master bedroom. There was an ensuite. I remember getting into bed one night and just starting to get ready for bed. Turn off the lights, laid down, wasn't even a minute. And I hear these heavy work boots leave the ensuite bathroom and walk by the end of the bed and then into the hallway. So I sat up and I turned a light on and I ran towards the hallway, turned that light on, and I saw someone go around the corner at the end of the stairs. Now, Dad's workshop was downstairs. He'd often come upstairs to use the upstairs bathroom, get cleaned up, whatever, and then he'd walk back down. And he'd always wear, he's a builder, so there's nails and stuff on the floor. He always wore work boots. And so it was almost like he was up there decided to go downstairs into the workshop. I don't know why at 11 o'clock at night, but hey, it was weird.
There is no concept of time.
No, exactly, right? I'm sure, especially when you're not on the planet anymore.
Do you believe that was your father?
Time, I am convinced 100% it was. Yeah. I don't see what else it could have been. Mm-hmm. It just would, because it was the house and it was his house and he built it, and why wouldn't he hang out there, right?
Right.
There was another time I had a friend staying with me in the house, and we were up talking one night, and we were talking about my dad, and but is there life after death and all that? And the friend of mine is an atheist. He doesn't really believe in anything. Well, says, well, do you think if there's a spirit, your dad would be hanging out here? And I said, I'm not really sure. Then all the lights in the house went out. None went out on the street or the other house. I could look out the window. All the lights in the house went out. And I just, for whatever reason, went, Dad, not now. And all the lights came back on. He was a practical
really,
joker, too.
just
So
like
it fit
that.
into his sort of, yeah. My buddy was just like, oh.
I love when spirit communicates with us, like obviously is there with us. It's so cool.
Oh, yeah. And I felt his presence many times, especially living in that. We have since sold it, and I haven't really felt it since, but I kind of, I don't know. And as a paranormal investigator, you're always kind of just putting pieces together out of what you've seen. And it's kind of felt like for a long time, he might have hung around while I was trying to find my right direction in life. And now that I'm on the path, I think I was supposed to be on all things. He always believed everything happened for a reason, and there was a plan for all of us. And it definitely has felt like these last couple of years that I've kind of really landed on that plan. And so I'm not feeling him anymore, I think, because he knows I'm okay, right? And he's seen his grandson, because my son was born, he's 9, and then I'm married and everything's working out fine and everything like that. So I think, I kind of get this feeling that he kind of felt he'd done his job as it kind of reconciled it and him passing. And now kind of, as you asked, do I have a belief system now? I said, I'm kind of forming it. I've definitely had spiritual experiences a lot over the years. I've even had some I'd call kind of semi-religious experiences, although I'm still not particularly religious, but I definitely am believing. I've come into focus. There's forces out there all the time. Mm-hmm. I think there's good ones. I think there's bad ones. And I think we can kind of tap into that. Mm-hmm. A bit. I mean, and that varies a bit from my philosophies as an investigator, because I do like to look at things more scientific. And I think, I'm developing theories on why ghosts are around and why spirits remain. But I definitely think there's a whole other level to things. I find it really hard to believe that we could go from a single-celled organism to a Beethoven concerto without a little help from somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Wherever that help is, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if we do find that out here in this human experience.
I don't think so either. And I don't think we're supposed to. And I think it would kind of ruin the fun of it a bit. It's the same, like as an investigator, like every time we've like Peter and I, and even when we do the show and stuff like that, like we found stuff that as much as you can call evidence in this line of work or this pseudoscience, none of it would hold up in a court of law. You can't really recreate it. But we found enough, but I think we never find the full answers to anything because we're not supposed to. Right. And maybe we do once we do die and move on, then we kind of get more answers. But definitely here on Earth, I don't think. And if you look at the world around us, there's so much chaos. There's too much distraction anyways.
There is. There absolutely is. What fun stories and experience that you've had already. I mean, we haven't even gotten into your present experiences that you're having now, but your past, just being open to having those experiences and those interactions is pretty cool.
And I think that's the big thing. Like, you have to have an open mind. Like I've got friends that are full on. They don't believe in anything, but they're still open-minded enough. Like they're part of the crew on the show and stuff like that. And they're still open to those experiences. I think even people that say they don't believe in anything, I think they want to believe in something. Yeah. It's just scary to take that leap. Mm-hmm. Right? Because then there's a whole, you're no longer really responsible for who you are, your actions completely. And you're no longer in control. We're not in control of our lives anyways, but I think if you started believing in there's more going on, you have none. Like it's just in your face. You just kind of react to things, and your experience is based on how you react to things. You have no control over it. The more you try to control anything, the less control you have.
Absolutely.
So I think that's
definitely thing. I like your outlook on it. I agree with you. I had so many experiences growing up. And of course, the adults were, oh, your imagination is so wild, and maybe you shouldn't be telling people those things. They're going to think you're crazy or whatever, reason to shut me down. And so for the longest time I did, but I just wouldn't share them with other people. Obviously, I was still experiencing. But when you have a friend there, you're not experiencing them alone anymore. And it's just very validating. Which is what I think is really cool, where you actually had witnesses with you. These experiences, even alone, to be true. And once you know, you can't unknow. You just want to know more.
Exactly. It's like that. It's like, I hate to say it, like that. The first time you have a taste of that, like a wine or a beer you really like, and you kind of like, oh, and then you want to have a second one. You want to know. It drives you. It just keeps driving you. And you're right. Like personal experiences, you can't really count in terms of evidence as a paranormal investigator. But if there's 2 or 3 of you that experience it, you can. It's actually something. There's more to it than that. And that's the golden egg. One of the golden eggs is an investigator in paranormal, for sure.
That's what's neat about having a team, because you're all different points of view. Like someone may be there to debunk what is going on because they don't believe, or they believe in science more than the actual spiritual part of it, or whatever reason. But together as a team, you all have something to offer. And then when that experience happens and you all see or feel the same thing, it's very validating. It's very cool.
It is, and I'm lucky, like with the group we investigate, we do have people that say they're atheists or they're skeptics, but I think you need that, because not everything that you experience is really paranormal. There's often quite logical explanations for things. It can be scientifically explained. I think you need to do that. So each incident you experience, you need to go in with that open mind that it could be one or the other, and you're not just going to ride a bandwagon of like, oh, that was paranormal, and then this is paranormal too, and then everything that happens is paranormal. Like, I hate that. You need to kind of look at each little thing as its own little event and try to weigh the possibilities. And then it's like Occam's razor. Once you rule everything else out, okay, then it's a ghost or whatever, right? And I really appreciate that. And I think that any good paranormal team or group needs to have a few people in it who are skeptical and want to be more scientific, because I think it gives it more validity and more credibility, and it keeps the rest of us that get really excited in line, if that makes sense.
Yes. No, it makes complete sense. I've hung out with quite a few investigators myself in my area, all growing up. Actually, this is something my dad raised us in, is going out to different ghost towns here in the West Desert, and going to groups in the cemetery, just different things as we were growing up, listening to EVPs for hours and hours. And so I love the group, what it brings, what it offers, and I love the excitement and the anticipation and sometimes the fear, all of those emotions that you go through doing the investigation. It's just very exciting. It
is. I think that's fascinating that they had parents that were so into it. Because you just don't, you know what I mean? Like, that's your dad. Yeah, I think that's amazing, right? Just to kind of grow up even with that openly around you. Because I know, like Peter Wren, who I work with, and he's been doing this 27 years. His mom was the same way, very open, very almost nurturing of that belief and that philosophy. And I think that's good to have, because I think more people, need that. It doesn't mean you have to believe in everything you see, but I think it creates a healthier outlook on life than this very rigid way that we live in now, and the way kids are raised and society thinks you should be. Right.
I really believe in nurturing your children to have an open mind towards anything, to be free thinkers.
Exactly. And I find raising a son right now, it's something my wife and I are both very much into. It doesn't matter what he ends up believing in the end in terms of spiritualness, but just be open-minded about life in general and experiences and people. We don't all have to get along and agree on everything, to be friends. It's being open-minded is something we've kind of lost track of, I think, as a society, especially the last 20, 30 years.
I agree.
Which could be a whole other discussion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially today in America. But we won't go there. Let's not talk about any of that tonight. I do have a question in the chat room. Do you think ghosts or spirits are of past loved ones? Like, I don't know if that's generalized or what the direction of that question is, but
I think they are. I mean, there's two school of thoughts. I'm definitely leaning towards that they are the spirits of people who have passed on. The thing that's of the big debate is, why are they here? One sort of more scientific way I really lean on it, and it's a good way to explain like residual hauntings, is Earth has a magnetic field, and we all have energy within us. And I think one theory that I really subscribe to is like the stone tape theory. When you die, some of your energy is left behind, and it can be imprinted on a place on the planet, and there's electromagnetic field, and it's replaying just something that happened at maybe the time when the person died, or some strong emotion. And so it's like those tapes, remember from the 60s, the 70s, when you'd have a mixtape and you could record an album on it, but then you could record on it again, but sometimes you'd hear the old album in the background.
Yes. I
think that's what it is. If scientifically, that makes a lot of sense to me. It appeals to the skeptic in me and the scientist in me. But it doesn't explain so much intelligent hauntings. But again, this is so early. It could still be maybe our energy just sticks around, and if we want to, when we die and we want to stick around, that our energy is part of the Earth's electromagnetic energy, and we can do stuff. We can interact with the world around us.
This is going a little bit deeper, but you talk about our energy being here and lingering on. What happens to our soul or our spirit at that point?
Well,
I'm not sure
that's
what you
the
believe.
great debate.
Yeah.
What that's the great debate. Do we have one, right? And it doesn't answer that question. But I mean, it could. There's that other side that maybe when a spirit, like the spirits and ghosts we're seeing, it's when we die, we just pass on to another dimension or another reality or another plane of existence. Science is already looking at different timelines, different dimensions, right? And so maybe that's where our soul goes then, and then it can kind of cross over from time to time in certain ways. That's where it gets hard. It's grasping at ideas, definitely. But I think
one
both
of those
have
things you were talking about in the beginning of the show, where you were saying we don't know. Like, that's just something we won't know here in this experience. We just won't know where pieces of us go.
Exactly. And I don't, hopefully we do know after we die, like it's something where the experience continues.
It would be nice to have some answers. Yes.
It would be. It definitely would be. But I think the short answer would be yes, I believe they are the spirits of loved ones or past people. In a lot of incidents. You can go into other like black masses and shadow beings. There's a whole other different categories you can touch on. But I think the experiences I know I've had, it's felt like my dad back.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you've had those experiences with him even still. We're going to take our first break of the hour. When we get back, we're going to continue to wander with our guest, Jason Hewlitt. So stay close. We'll be right back.
Intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you still at it?
Yeah, I need more speed.
This baby's fast.
My dad's fast. He's scary fast.
You really think you could beat him?
Yeah, because I drink more tea than he does.
Yeah, right.
You know, pal, it's the tea that makes you go. Oh. Hey, Dad.
You know, kiddo, you have to drink a lot more tea to be faster than me.
Drink the tea that makes you go. Life Change Tea. You may not need as much as Dad. You never know. GetTheTea.com. Log on to GetTheTea.com.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The On Air Live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live. with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, the KGRADB.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRARadio.com.
Hello, Wanderers. Welcome back. We are hanging out with our guest, Jason Hewlitt, author of I Want to Believe, One Man's Journey into the Paranormal. That we're going to get into, and I'm really excited to learn more about that story. Jason, are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
I am here.
Good. I just didn't see you.
There you are.
So you have all of these experiences, which are really incredible, and I'm sure you have a lot more you'll be sharing with us. But which came first, the book or the paranormal reality show?
The paranormal reality show came first, and it was born out of, it was kind of born out of an accident. Okay, well, it's a long story, but
when
I started working with Peter,
so
we do. So I'll explain it a bit. When I started working with Peter Wren with Vancouver Paranormal Society, he's been in the business 27 years. So he's been approached a lot by TV producers wanting to do a show. And he's usually turned them down because if you know anything about paranormal investigations and you watch many of those shows on television, they're highly inaccurate as to what it's actually like. I get it. A lot of money's and time's invested. There's ratings. People got to get paid. You got to deliver. And I've been on many paranormal investigations where nothing happens, or at least nothing TV worthy.
Yeah, they're very.
So he's always turned it down because of the way that it's portrayed. Right. First night that he and I went out investigating on our own together, we were to meet with a TV producer because he'd been approached, and the guy was going to meet us out where we were doing the investigation. And so we did that, and it became pretty apparent pretty quick that the person didn't really know what they were doing. I have a background in film. I was a newspaper reporter for 10 years. I do broadcasting. I got a gist of how things work, and it just didn't feel like it was going to go anywhere. So, but Peter, then it was in his head, like maybe we should do something. And we were going to do a YouTube show, and we'd managed to put together a crew of people that for whatever reason, it never worked. It never worked out. Schedules didn't work. People dropped out. We kind of got frustrated. So I suggested to Peter, well, why don't we do like a paranormal podcast instead? It's easier. I've done podcasts, radio. It wouldn't be hard. I've got the equipment. We would just go out to locations, take the audio that we record from EVPs and anything else, and we just do sort of a wraparound discussion about it. And he thought that was really cool. So we went out. It was early last year. So about this time last year, we went out and we kind of did an investigation, recorded all our audio, went back, put out the podcast. And at the time it was called I Want to Believe. But when we were doing the recording and the investigation, I did a Facebook Live video on the group page explaining what we were doing. And I have a friend of mine named John Fallon, who's made feature films. He's acted. He's a screenwriter. He runs the website Arrow in the Head, which is part of the Joe Blow Movie Network. So it's the biggest entertainment movie network on the planet. And they were just launching a YouTube channel. And he's like, why would you do a podcast? You can do a YouTube show. And we'd put it on this new channel. And being me, I didn't really think it through, but I said, sure. And I hadn't talked to Peter about it. And I hadn't talked to anyone else involved if they'd even want to do it. But I was like, yeah, why not? I could do that. Sure, I haven't filmed anything in 15, 20 years, but whatever, we'll figure it out. And so I went to Peter and talked him into it. He kind of, it wasn't hard because the podcast had gone well, and we'd worked together for about a year, really seriously worked together for a year or so. And it just sort of turned out that people that I knew through my connections doing my From the Basement movie show, there was someone who could film, and someone else, my buddy Sean, who's my co-host on that show, he can do audio, and he was into coming on the show. And then I'd met a gentleman named Jason D. Morris, who's down in California, and he's done award-winning documentaries. And he said, I'll edit it, sure. And it was just, for whatever reason, it was the right time. Everything came together. So we managed to go back out to the location where we did the podcast, do another investigation, film all of it. And then the COVID lockdown happened here in Canada, but we had enough material to start putting together, because it was YouTube, so you wouldn't want to be more than 8 to 10 minutes, 3 to 4 episodes that would launch once a month that we could get it going. And then as soon as we were allowed to get out in May, we had other cases lined up that we just started hitting and fill as many as we can before, we're now in a sort of a second lockdown period here. But so that's how the show started. But doing some media for the show, I was on Into the Fray radio, which is hosted by Shannon LeGros. And she's done work with like small town monsters, and she's been on the Trail of UFOs. So she's got a TV presence, a podcast presence. She's written a book.
She's here on KGRA.
She is as well. That's right. She's become a really good friend, although I've never actually got to meet her face to face. But we've built a really good working relationship.
I really like her.
Peter and I were on her show. She's fantastic. Talking about We Want to Believe, which is the title of the series. We couldn't call it I Want to Believe because another show came out called the same thing. So we had to change the name to We Want to Believe. And Peter's telling his experiences that he's had over his 27 years, his background. And Shannon's like, Peter, have you ever thought of writing a book? Because those are some really good stories. He's like, no, I don't have time. And I couldn't do that. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I wrote newspapers for 10 years. I could totally write that book. So I contacted Shannon after. I'm like, if I could convince Peter to write the book, would you guys want to publish it through Beyond the Fray? And she's like, yeah, for sure. So we convinced Peter that we should do that. And that's kind of how it came about. So it's the one really morphed into the other. And it's perfect life experience. You meet, I'd met Shannon interviewing her, but on the Trail of UFOs on From the Basement. So I made that connection doing something completely different, but everything kind of intertwines. Like I was saying, my dad believed there's a path for all of us. And when you're on that path, it kind of works. And that's just sort of, really feels like that's what happened. And I mean, the book came out just in time for Christmas. It hit #1 in its category on Amazon. The reviews are really, really good. The show's, We Want to Believe is ticking along. We've got a new episode coming out later this month, starting with a whole new investigation. And it's really been quite a journey just on this side of it, taking something that was an interest and a passion and then sort of treating it more seriously, doing investigations with Vancouver Paranormal, and then filming it, but filming it the way that we think it should be filmed, to show what it's really like on these cases without having to dress it up too much. Mm-hmm. Or create false scares or anything like that, and show what it's really like. And then with the book, I was almost able to take that to the next level, because you're writing a book, so you don't have to, you can keep it as accurate as any event was and just be honest with it and explain it in a way that's easy to understand, that people don't get wigged out. And in the book, we talk a lot about the myths that get associated to the paranormal. And we talk a lot about how there's often a logical explanation. We give some examples about the things that can make people think they have a haunting in their home that isn't at all anything to do with a haunting. It's like, it's carbon monoxide, it's black mold, it's electrical problem. We get into all these different, to try to debunk the myths and just present the facts as best as Peter and I can, based on his experiences and my experiences over the years. So it's been a lot of fun. And like, if you were to tell me this time last year that I would have done the YouTube show and written the book, and I'll be talking to you about both, I would have said, no way. There's no way that would happen.
Don't you love how everything just falls into place?
Yeah.
When we're divinely connected to our purpose, that's the way it works, though. There are no accidents.
Very
how
true.
Everything just lined up for you.
No, it wasn't. And it's really been, like, I consider myself, I've got really good intuition. I call it like a journalist's intuition. I had it as a reporter. It made me a really good reporter. And I think I'm a bit empathic. So you pick up on the vibes of things. And it's just sort of certain people I've met are just like, okay, this isn't just going to be like a one-off meeting and there's a point behind it. You know what I mean? And you get that feeling. And it's definitely this whole way on this whole trip, it just really has felt like that. And so you just learn to listen to it. When you listen to it and you don't fight it, things tend to work out, at least as they should. They might not be easy. It might not always be fun, but it happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can relate to a lot of what you're sharing. I never in a million years thought I'd be doing a radio show. I'm going into my 5th year. I thought, this would just be fun. Let's just start a podcast, which wasn't even my idea. But here we are, and I love it. And all these people, just all the support. You just never know what's going to be on your radar. You never know how it's going to work out.
Not and congratulations, like 5 years, especially like in internet years. Like that's a long time for something to go. That's amazing. Like, way to go.
Thanks. Well, it started out as a podcast. I've been on the station. We're going into the 3rd year on the station, so it's a blessing. It's a lot of fun. I get to meet people like you.
It is, and it's cool. And I've found everyone I've met, doing like, kind of helping to promote the show and talk about the book, and even just people in the field, they're all really cool people. They're among the most genuine people you ever meet.
I agree.
And I think part of it is because we're interested in something that most people look at and go, that's weird, but we're being honest about it. You know what I mean? And accepting and believing and understanding. So that helps a lot. So it's been fun.
And all of the things you believe in, all the anomalous things are right in line with all of the listeners here on the station throughout every show. So that's just really neat that you can reach that much of an audience and know that you're supported and people believe you, or they want to believe you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, and I think, yeah. So very true. So very true.
Well, I like that you decided to run with it. You used your intuition and just jumped right on board with it. And I think that's fantastic that you took the call, if you will. I love that it's in the paranormal field. That's really near and dear to my heart. So we get to talk about it some more. Let's talk about your book. So you have this book, I Want to Believe, One Man's Journey into the Paranormal. Mm-hmm. And it is a little more in depth, like you said, than your show. But tell us a little bit about the book. Like, if someone were to purchase the book, what would they be getting? What is that book like?
It's Peter's story, really. So what Peter and I did is we sat down as soon as we were able to, and we just started talking about his life and his experiences. Like I said, he's been doing this 27 years, and he's from the UK, so he started in England, living in like a London borough. And like I sort of said earlier on the show, his mom was very much a believer in the paranormal and supportive of it. And so he'd have these experiences happen. Like there's one bit in the book, like it's called his origin story chapter, where every morning at breakfast, in their breakfast room, a ball of light would show up in one part of the room and work its way across the other side and then disappear every morning. And so it was common. And they just kind of learned to live with this ball of light that they ended up calling Fred, because I guess everything in England's called Fred or John. They don't know what it is. They just give it a name. So, and that was really the kickoff to it. And he kind of, growing up with that, he was always then interested in the paranormal. And there was one time when he was at this job fair trying to figure out what he wanted to do. And there's a ghost hunting group had a booth. And so he applied and convinced them that they were all older guys in, like, the 60s, I guess. And he was like, 18, 19, but he convinced them that he should go along. And he sort of did investigations with them. And then he formed his own group named Croydon Paranormal. And then he ended up traveling around the world and investigating the paranormal and ended up here in Canada. And so it details a lot of his big investigations. Like he was one of, if not the first paranormal group that would, in order to get into locations like Warwick Castle or the London Dungeon, which are these, big commercial properties, would never let anyone else near it. He would set it up. Well, if we come in, we do a fundraiser for you and invite the media and people to come along. And we do these investigations as fundraisers. We charge some admission, but all the money goes towards a charity. And that opened a lot of doors to places that normally wouldn't let, paranormal investigators inside. So he started that over in the UK back in the 90s. And so he investigated Warwick Castle, which has a rich haunted history, the London Dungeon, obviously. Like I've been to the UK and been to both, and they've got these rich histories. So he was able to do that. So we talk about that. When he was in Australia, he went and did investigations at Fremantle Prison, which had been closed at the time, kind of the same way. So we talk about these big investigations, these big places. Fremantle's the most haunted place in Australia. So we talk about the stories he found there. But then we get into the smaller, more personal stories at like residential hauntings. And we talk about a few really dramatic ones that occurred outside of Vancouver and in and around Vancouver. He's been doing this long enough now that he's now an investigator for an ordained exorcist in Washington State. So Peter's the guy that determines whether or not there is actually a case of demonic possession going on and whether or not the exorcist needs to step in. So we talk about a case that happened here, and we go into all the theories about, demonic possessions, the devil, if it's real or not. So for every chance we had, we not only tell the story, but we want to dive into the mythology of it and talk about, the background and what people believe, how popular culture presents certain things compared to the reality of it. And the bit on demonic possession, we get into, how upside down crosses and 666 is all just stuff that Hollywood has really clamored onto because it's an easy way to sell, evil. But really, it has nothing to do. The upside down cross is a St. Peter's cross, and 666 is a numerological symbol, which actually is quite positive. So, yeah. But, Hollywood has taken that, and popular fiction has taken that and ruined it, really. And it's made our jobs as paranormal investigators and researchers even harder, because now everybody thinks that there's evil or that there's always a ghost and that the ghost is always bad. And that what we do is come in these big dramatic things that, send vortex. It's not like that at all. So we try to really explain a lot of that away in the book as well. And while telling Peter's story, and a little bit of mine comes up too as his narrator as well. So, and I wrote it like he and I were sitting and talking. And so it's very easy to read. And people have said that. The reviews are like, well, it's really easy to digest. It's a quick read. It's very informative, but you don't get bogged down in minutia or heavy details. Because I don't like that as a reader. And I don't really like that as a writer either. So I tried to keep it as light as possible as well. So that's basically the book in a nutshell. And it's out from Beyond the Fray Publishing, and it's available on Amazon in Canada, in the US, and at Barnes & Noble.
Oh, fantastic. I'm definitely going to get me a copy of it. It sounds very intriguing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was fun to write. It was, really fun to write.
How long did it take you to write it?
We started doing the interviews and research in June. I finished the first draft in September. The second draft was kind of completed in sort of October. And then there's a number of polishes that were done. And it was funny because we signed the contract the end of October, and they said it would be out within the next year. And then we started doing these heavy sort of polishes and tweaks as early December. And then I remember on Thursday, getting an email from G. Michael Hopp, who's Shannon's partner at Beyond the Fray, and he says, it's going to come out on Tuesday. So it came out on the 14th or 15th of December, just in time for Christmas kind of thing. And they even ended up releasing it a day early because we let people know that it was coming out, and it started to pre-order really fast here in Canada because we're both Canadian, So I guess that kind of was a bit of initiative there too. So they ended up coming out actually on the Monday instead of the Tuesday, and it's gone over really well. So we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I would be excited about it. I love how quickly you made it happen. You made a decision and it's done. It's so cool.
I didn't believe it would happen that fast, and it did. And so now we're going to write a second one. Peter and I are going to sit down and do a second book, and it's going to focus more on residential hauntings and go in way more detail for each case, because we give as much as we can without bogging it down. This is going to be more of a detailed book about what goes on in an investigation, what the steps were in each one. And we'll even go into ones that ended up being hoaxes or were explained away, and kind of to show that side of things too. So the second book, we're going to start working on it, I think, in February. And hopefully, I'd like to kind of write it and have it out by Christmas again, if we could.
That's a good goal. Is it the one, Just Another Paranormal Investigator?
It was originally the book was going to be called Just Another Paranormal Investigator. They decided they wanted to change the title. So Just Another Paranormal Investigator became I Want to Believe in the end. So I don't know what the new one we're going to call yet. We'll probably have to go with the I Want to Believe moniker right now that we've started this whole trend, and then give it a subtitle like Residential Hauntings or something. Try to come up with something kind of cool. But yeah.
Then people want to collect them, and they know that they're all connected.
That's how I look at it, right? And even with the, because the show is called We Want to Believe, so it kind of is similar enough. It ties in. Originally, the show was going to be called I Want to Believe, so that would have been kind of nice to all do that, but it just didn't work out that way. But yeah, the books now that Peter and I do have to be part of kind of, I think, a series in our minds, because it's the same thought process, the same people. We're going to do one book too, I think, on just the experiences we've had doing the show and the cases we've done on the show. And just that. And Peter and I we've left Vancouver Paranormal actually late last year and created our own group called Canadian Paranormal Foundation. Just because we're in the interior of British Columbia, and he was running Vancouver Paranormal 3.5 hours away from Vancouver. So it just made sense to go off on our own. So a lot of people that were involved in the show are now part of the Canadian Paranormal Foundation and
Need
doing
to
it
change
that
your
way.
bio
So that's something
up.
that happened late in the year too. Yeah.
I told people other things, so that's good. That's good to know. I mean, especially traveling who wants to travel that far after an investigation because they're exhausting. But
It is, and I mean, it's already, a lot of the times you don't start till 7 or 8 at night, and you're there till 1 or 2 in the morning, and then he just couldn't do it anymore, and he's got young kids and a family too, right? So it becomes very hard. So we've sort of refocused, just like I said, just recently here in the interior. And we've got people who were with Vancouver Paranormal but aren't, but now they're going to work with, it's a long story, but we've kind of branched out and started doing our own thing, and tying it very much in line with the show and even into the book, etc. So
it's branding at its finest. It's good. With your paranormal show, I really like that you're doing a more realistic approach, like no camera tricks, no like you were saying, the upside down cross or the 666, things like that, to show people the reality of what you're doing instead of adding glitz and glamour to it. Those shows are really frustrating to me because they go in and whatever they're doing, I just feel like they antagonize spirit and then leave the premises and kind of leave things in a whirlwind, even if they didn't have anything that really happened, even though they make it look that way. It's just very disrespectful to spirit, in my opinion. And like you said, they always do make it look like they're angry spirits, that it's always dark and things like that, when that's not always the case. So I like your approach, how you're actually doing real research and showing real results of what that looks like.
Well, and that was the whole point from the beginning. I mean, and that's when Peter and I were going to do, that's why we decided to go the podcast route after the original show idea didn't work. Because at least then you could control that element. And then when we were approached by John to do the show for the Joe Blow YouTube channel, that was like, no, but this is this is how it has to be done. And that was sort of Peter's line in the sand. And so it makes it, I think, even I have a film background, and obviously I was a writer, I'm a storyteller. So there's part of me wants to try to tell as interesting and entertaining a story as possible. So that part of me fights with the part that's the paranormal investigator, but the paranormal investigator always wins kind of thing in the end. So we try to film it interestingly enough. And any humor that happens, everything that you see in the show happened at the location while we were there. We use some music just to make it, because when you listen to something without music, it just sometimes doesn't work. So you can put in some music just to add a little bit of a mood to it, but we never play it up. And we don't go in. We did The Barn, which was a 2-parter that we filmed. We only got one EVP. So we had the EVP in it, but that's all that happened. And so we kind of say that. We did bring in someone who is a psychic to have her go through it, and that made for interesting viewing. And she came up with some points that really supported the research we had done. But we didn't take it any further than that. And, she wasn't like, oh, and there's an evil thing inside and it's, mad at everybody and that's why this is happening. You know what I mean? Like there's none of that.
Yeah, like all the others do.
Like all the others. And we don't allow that to happen. So whatever we find ends up in the show. It was funny. Our very first episode that we filmed, because we're big, we hate it that on certain shows, every week it's a demon and it wants to possess people. So we were trying to avoid that. In the first place we went in, we got an EVP that said demon. The first place that we filmed that.
You attract
of course, right? Yeah. And there was a thing on the property that people had called the demon jar because someone claimed to have captured a spirit in it that was evil. And so we were just like, seriously? Like the first time we go out and film, we get a demon jar and we get a demon EVP and all this stuff. But it's what came up. It wasn't, we didn't plan it that way. It's just the way that it worked out.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And it gave us the opportunity to explore that conversation on the show too. So it's been an interesting experience.
What's your intention when you bring in a psychic to that experience?
We only did it the once because the psychic lived near where we were filming, and Peter had worked with her for years. He doesn't really put a lot of faith and trust in psychics. But the one that we brought in, Jen, was one of the 5 that he actually believes has any real psychic ability. And part of it is she doesn't use it a lot on investigations at all. And he tries not to because, and when he did, like in this case, we went in, we did our walkthrough, we learned all the information first, we did some stuff, and then we brought her in after, and it was used it as a way to corroborate what we were told. And it worked out really, really well. He's hesitant to bring in one and have the psychic do the first walkthrough because what they say will influence the other investigators, if that makes sense. Because if someone's saying, oh, and this happened and I feel this, if you go in later and investigating, it's already imprinted in your brain that someone said that that's what happened. So you're going to start seeing that. So when we used Jen, and when she comes along, she is there to support the findings, not to be the one going in and digging everything up. And we feel that that's just a good way to use someone with a psychic ability in support of, but not as the main resource for research.
Yeah, that's a good plan. Yeah. So you'll bring one in, but it's not something you're going to do every time.
No, not at all. And there's a whole other conversation that we could have about psychic phenomena and psychic mediums, but I think it's not part of our bread and butter. And you do see that on a lot of shows where it's every week as part of the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really over the shows on TV. So yours, I want to know when and where I can watch it. It sounds like it will be a refreshing twist on paranormal investigations on TV.
Well, right now, you can find it at, we have wanttobelieve.net. There's some episodes up there. There's episodes also at resurrectionfilms.com. It has been on Joe Blow Horror Videos, but they're doing some restructuring. So it's going to come back on later in the month, but they're restructuring the videos. But those are sort of places where episodes are still currently can be found. And we have a Facebook page, We Want to Believe the Series, where we posted episodes up on there as well. So people can check it out that way too.
When I was looking on Facebook, I saw a group, like a private group, but it was public. And then a page. Is there one that does? Yeah,
there's both. We have 2, but the page is sort of the one we mainly use. So we want to believe the series, and it's the Facebook page, not so much the group. Yeah, there's episodes up on there. We use that to promote.
Then I'm following the right one.
You are. Thank you.
Towards the end of the show, listeners, we'll make sure you guys have all of that information again in case you didn't have your pen or paper ready for that. But we're going to take our last break. We're going commercial free the second hour, so stay close. We have a whole entire hour to journey with Jason. We'll be right back.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you still at it?
Yeah, I need more speed.
This baby's fast.
My dad's fast. He's scary fast.
You really think you could beat him?
Yeah, because I drink more tea than he does.
Yeah, right.
You know, pal, it's the tea that makes you go, oh, hey, Dad.
You know, kiddo, you have to drink a lot more tea to be faster than me.
Drink the tea that makes you go. Life Change Tea. You may not need as much as Dad. You never know. GetTheTea.com. Log on to GetTheTea.com.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, the KGRADB.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRARadio.com.
You are listening to Soul Wanderings here on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, Salt Lake City, Utah, and Hudson Valley, New York. I invite you to visit the website KGRADB, that's KGRADigitalBroadcasting.com. This new and beautiful site is filled with many opportunities for you to explore and learn exclusive content and the KGRA classics. So I encourage you to go and visit and see for yourself. That's KGRADB.com. We are hanging out with our guest tonight, Jason Hewlitt, author and paranormal investigator. And it's been really neat getting to know you so far.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun being on here and chatting with you. I'm having a great time.
Good. I'm glad. So you'll stick around for another hour?
I will do that, yes, I promise.
I would be screwed if you didn't.
I've done live radio for quite a while, so I know what happens when
it's not always the best situation. So thanks for hanging out.
No. You betcha.
So a book and a paranormal show, a real paranormal show, not the sugar-coated ones, I guess you could say, the ones for the ratings.
Yes.
Although I believe with you being real and showing it how it is in reality, that will intrigue a lot of people. They want to know the truth. I feel like most of them know that the other shows are totally Hollywood, and they want to know what really happens. People are intrigued by what they don't know or what they want to know or what they want to believe, especially when it comes to paranormal or anything anomalous. At least the people I'm around want to. And I'm sure I could speak for, most people. That's how it is. We want to know the truth. It's not just in paranormal, but in the world we're asking questions. We're wanting answers, like what is going on in this human experience and what happens after and what's in the in-between. And they want to know about UFOs, like what's really real and what's been being hid from us and all of the things. So I think it will be a great opportunity for you guys to share that with everyone. And I think they're going to jump on board pretty quickly. I think it's a great idea what you're doing.
Well, thank you. And like we were saying in the first hour, that was always kind of the intention to do that. I mean, we felt too that there was a little bit of risk involved, because if you're not a lot of times people, even though they know the show's fake, it's entertaining, right? For 22 minutes. So it's trying to keep a group of people in a dark old building interesting for the length of the runtime. But we've been lucky, like the investigative people, as you know, AJ, people who are into this are really into it, and that enthusiasm comes through, and you see it with the people involved. And like I said, we've got Sean, who's more of the skeptic, so he brings a little bit of humor to it, right? And one of our filmers is a guy named cinematographer is a guy named Marcus, who's never done it before, so he's just like, gee whiz, this is cool, you know what I mean? And so he goes in, and then at the end of every episode, we film like these video journals with us explaining what we saw and what we thought of it. We intersperse that throughout, and it's kind of kept it really, I think, fun and fast-paced, quite funny. Like there's some that we did that get pretty funny because Peter's British and he's got a really good sense of humor, and he and I play off each other well, so we try to show that. But then we show the evidence, and we'll even put, like Jason Morris, who's a great editor, he'll put the actual audio with the wavelengths up on screen, and he'll run it, and he'll keep repeating it and amplifying it to clarify it. And he shows himself doing that on camera. And then we put like the subtitle of what we're hearing on it there. And I think that just really drives home what it's like. Like, we're listening and repeating it and digging as much as we can. And then the one episode I was mentioning about the demon jar there, the place we were at was a place for social housing. And there's one guy in the property that keeps saying he sees something coming into his room. And so he calls it a demon, and he yells at it and he screams at it. And while we were doing our tour, of the facility, he started doing that. So we have that on camera, but this is a place for social housing. So these are people with drug addictions and mental health issues. And we make it clear that, sure, that's what the guy's seeing, but you can't take that at face value just because he's yelling out demon, right? The interesting part is he's yelling out demon. We got a demon EVP and someone claims they caught it. There's a demon jar, but there's always another possible explanation. So we try to just show all the avenues and have all of it on camera and then really leave it up to the viewer to decide what they're seeing and is what we found valid or not. Mm-hmm. And the response so far from those who have seen it within the paranormal community has been very strong, and they appreciate that it's finally a show that's showing it as realistically as possible. We do some music, as I've said. We do editing. We try to make it look interesting, but we're not faking anything, and we're not staging scares through editing. Mm-hmm. It's just we make the editing interesting, so it's just not like these long, slow takes in a dark room showing nothing. You know what I mean? So that's about as dramatic as we really get with it. And so far, people have really liked it, and that is it's a lot of work, and we take that as that we really appreciate that people are enjoying what they're seeing. Mm-hmm. And I checked on the break, and you can still find it if you Google Joe Blow horror videos. We want to believe it'll come up on their YouTube channel. Or even we want to believe on YouTube, you can still find the episodes. Yeah.
Perfect. So, I'm going to go down that dark hole.
Yeah, exactly.
I will.
And we've decided we branched out from hauntings. Later this month, we're doing our first Bigfoot episode. We went on some Bigfoot hunts, and we've compiled them together, and we got 3 episodes all about our search for Bigfoot. We've been able to bring in Ken Gerhard, who's a cryptozoologist who's written some books and studied Bigfoot. And of course, Shannon LeGros, she's written Bigfoot books, so she's on it as well. And we interspersed interviews with them in to explain it. And we're really excited. It's our most ambitious episodes yet, because it took like many months to shoot over the summer and into the fall. And in the end, we went out into the woods at night, just us as a team. And went looking with our gear and to see what we could find, and tried the baby crying in the dark and all this stuff to see if anything would happen. So it was really cool. So we're going to do that and try to do some UFO
if anything happened?
No, you got to watch. We did. Okay.
Not even.
We got wood knocks. I'll say that. Wood knocks. We did get some wood knocks.
Okay.
Which I thought was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool, actually. I love that you're branching out even past the paranormal and hauntings and things like that. That's really neat. With your paranormal investigations, do you guys have like a process before you go in? I always like to ask people this who do paranormal investigating. Do you block yourself energetically? Do you burn anything? Do you pray? What does that look like? Or do you just go in and get to work?
Some of the people on the team will, they'll have their stones that they use, or they've got a cross. One thing that we always do, regardless, is we go in and we introduce ourselves to the place and to the spirits that are there. We explain who we are, what we're doing. We're not there to harm them. We're just there to communicate and talk and learn about what's happening, and that's it. We're not there to do anything more than that. And that's for myself, that's about it. That's enough. I feel that that's enough. And always when we finish, we say, okay, we're done. You're not allowed to come home. You know what I mean? Or anything like that. You're not allowed to follow us home. You just stay here.
That was my next question.
Yeah. Because
no one wants to take anything back with them.
No, not at all. So that's what the 2 steps we really do to kind of protect ourselves, and just being respectful. It's the same we went looking for Bigfoot. We brought an Aboriginal storyteller with us, and he did a prayer to the land and made an offering, because you do that. You respect. You're going into someone else's territory, be it the woods or a house, and you want to be respectful of that. Because how would you feel if a bunch of guys walked into your house and just started yelling and screaming and doing stuff? Right? You'd get pretty mad. Yeah. So it's just being respectful and cautious, just in case.
I like that. Great answer. I'm glad that you do those things.
Well, it's always, because I've gone and not done it when I didn't know what I was doing, and it wasn't always pretty. So you learn from experience to be very careful. Before I did any organized paranormal investigations with a actual team that knew what they were doing, I'd go out on my own or with a couple people. My first paranormal investigation was in journalism school. I was in a magazine writing class back when it was more of a viable option to write for a magazine. And I chose the Fortean Times, which was a big publication out of the UK. And they think they're still going to this day. So in Kamloops, we have a place called Tronquil Sanitarium. It's a former tuberculosis clinic and mental institution that shut down in the 80s when they deinstitutionalized everything. And of course, within weeks of it shutting down, stories started to pop up about all the stuff that happened there and ghosts, etc. So in 2003, when I was doing my journalism program, I decided I wanted to do an investigation at Tronquil Sanitarium. I knew the caretaker who was watching it. I put together a team that included a psychic, the camera guy who was part of the journalism program, a skeptic, and then someone who had experiences there. And we went and spent the night. And again, we didn't know what we were doing. We showed up, we opened the doors, we had all fresh gear, we walked a few steps, and all the camera equipment died, even though the batteries had just been recharged. So we went and put new batteries in. We had electrical problems all night. We were in one room, and the lights were on, and Donna, who was our psychic, was talking and doing her thing. And so the lights all went off, and she screamed. And then the lights came back on. It looked like it was winter, so we're wearing toques, so they're wool knit caps, and it had been pulled up off her head and was just settling back down.
No.
So things were coming up and actually interacting with us, but we didn't take any precautions. We didn't. So that was pretty alarming. And then another time when I went back many months later with Donna, it was during the day, and we were exploring and doing our thing. And because Canada can get a lot of snow, they built tunnels connecting all the buildings at this sanitarium. And they'd use that to transfer patients and food and all that during the middle of winter where we get feet of snow. So we were down in the tunnels. And we kind of done this tunnel system, and we came up in this laundry building. It was the end of our investigation. We were going to go home. And it's like, well, we can go back across land to the car, or we can go back through the tunnels and do one final take. So we decided we're going to go back through the tunnels. So we literally went back downstairs to the doorway that we just like minute and a half before had gone through. I opened it. I got it partway open, and it slammed shut with enough force that I was pulled off my feet, and I hit the door. And we'd just been through it. There's nothing to lock. There's no lock mechanism. There's no airflow down in that tunnel. There's nothing that could have caused that naturally. And so we just booked it right back up the stairs, right back out. And I stopped investigating for a while at that point, because it was terrifying. Something caused physical harm. And again, we hadn't done anything proper beforehand to protect ourselves, or afterwards we did, but it was kind of the first time I realized this stuff can hurt you or impact you in some way physically. It can actually really interact with you if you're not careful.
Absolutely. One of my first times. Yeah. One of my first times as an adult clearing a home. I mean, after, I've done like little house clearings, like nothing because of a darker energy by any means, just blessings and things like that. My first experience clearing a home that was heavily paranormal. I had no idea. The story I can't even talk about it all the way. It traumatized me for quite a while, but I physically was pushed on my back down to my knees. Like I was pushed, so I fell down to my knees. And when I had a friend with me, she was sitting in the chair next to me. I was standing next to her. She had her eyes roll in the back of her head. She was sitting in the chair with her arms on the rest, and her head went back with her eyes like rolled in the back of her head. And we were in front of a bed in the master bedroom, and you could see, like, it wasn't a physical body, but it looked like a body raising up out of the bed under the sheet. It was terrifying. Terrifying. And I couldn't move. Like, I was on my knees. I couldn't get up and even run. I was in such fear and paralyzed from the fear. And it took me a long time before I ever did a house clearing again. And I won't do it if I know there's anything demonic or heavier than, just average. I don't know how else I would put that, but it's not my favorite thing to do anymore. And I don't think I can ever really go back to something like that. It was very traumatic.
It would be. It's because it's something like it's one thing to see things, right, and hear things, right, and I've seen lots. Like, I mean, the thing with my dad that I saw at the house didn't scare me at all. It was almost more comforting, but it's startling to see it because you're not supposed to see that.
Right.
So same with, like, I mean, even the house that I live in, back when Sean and I would do From the Basement on Campus Radio, you know, it would be Friday night at 10, so he'd pick me up about 9. I'd be sitting, you know, and I'd just hang out. And I remember sitting downstairs, listening to music, and I just felt something behind me. And I turned around, and there was this shape standing there. But it just looked at me and ran and was gone. And I kind of just started. And I was just more like, huh. But to have something touch you or push you or do something, that's a whole other level. Yeah. And that's how it felt to get pulled into that door. And it was just, for years, I didn't do anything after that. And I think, and I don't blame you for wanting to not want to go into a house where that's going on. Why put yourself in that position?
It's not,
because there is some stuff out there, whether it's demonic or just like, you know, the spirit of a jerk, you know what I mean? That you just don't want to mess with. You wouldn't mess with people like that in real life. So why would you mess with them when they're dead?
Yeah.
So,
and you know, that wasn't the
startling.
intention. It just, I mean, the intention was more to bring the homeowners peace because the energy was so bad. You never really know what's going to happen or what you're getting yourself into, even if you have all the research of the history of the space. And you come to find out there's a lot of history in that space before that house was even built there. So, I mean, there was a lot to it that we could have learned beforehand that would have been beneficial. Very naively walked into that, right? One.
And even like you say, like I use the term mess with, but I just mean like even just trying to interact with stuff. There's certain things you just don't want to interact with, period. Right? Like, you know, and even when you're trying to help other people, it's not always that simple. It's just going in and saying, go away, you know, kind of thing. It does work sometimes.
Go to the light, go to the light. Although I don't believe in that either. I'm just saying that like someone would say that. I don't believe in sending anybody anywhere, any spirit or any person. So.
No, it's just, so it's eye-opening to kind of experience that. So it's always good to take as many precautions, like you say, as you can, and researching as much as you can. But sometimes you can't learn all this stuff. There's sometimes know about a place. Like we've been into residential schools here in Canada, where, you know, where Aboriginal children were taken from their parents and they were schooled and made to be Western culture. And there's abuse that would happen and a whole bunch of ugly stuff. And you go into a place with that kind of energy, as I'm sure you know, AJ, stuff sticks around and it's not always happy. And I mean, one place we were at, I mean, there's been occasions where you'd hear lots of things, but you'd see half apparitions or such. And Peter's even, something's grabbed his arm and tried to pull him to the floor. And that's with taking all the precautions you'd normally take. Like it's not always as simple as just, okay, I'm going to protect myself and everything's going to be fine. It's like dealing with people. You can be as protective as you want around individuals, but sometimes they're just going to do what they want to do anyways. So, yeah, I don't know quite where I was going with that point, but it's
still good.
I think there's only so much we can do to prepare for something.
Aside from your father and having that beautiful experience, do you have any other experiences that stand out in your mind that felt particularly warm and fuzzy on a positive note? Those were sort of the warmest, fuzziest ones, I guess, that I could explain. I know when we were, the cabin that we were that I went to growing up, my mom and I ended up rebuilding it. We had to tear it down and rebuild it. And I know I could kind of feel Dad around there afterwards again. But I guess the closest would be, I remember like my mom passed away in 2018 and we'd always kept Dad's ashes and we had Mom cremated. And I just decided I was going to take, because they loved going to the lake. So I took both their ashes out to the lake. And it was like November, so it was super cold. And I went down onto the dock at night, there's sunset, and I cut them open and I kind of let the ashes out. And it was very typical. Mom's all went flowery and flowy out into the wind. And because Dad's had sat there for 20 odd years, they kind of lumped out, got splashed with water and ash on me, kind of thing like that. But I remember just sitting on the dock and, you know, feeling like for the first time in a couple of weeks, there was a lot of sadness and grief, but just feeling total contentment. And it felt like they had been reunited after 27 years or whatever. And it just felt really peaceful. And that night, even though it was like, you know, just a couple of weeks after Mom had died, I remember I spent the night out at the lake and just hung out and it just felt right. Sort of spiritually in a sense.
and just as a person. So I guess I'd be the next really closest feeling of real warmth that I got from anything like that. It just sort of felt like a lot of closure for them. In a way for me too. Like in
I
a
was going to
sense
say,
that,
maybe even in a way for yourself.
Yeah, that it was just sort of being able to reunite them and just feeling like they were together and just we were like almost a family again for one night at this spot. And just it felt really, really good. And it was it was neat. It was neat. But those would really be the big
that
ones.
you hold on to. Those are the ones you keep really close.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that is difficult to share such personal and deep things.
It is, yeah, and it's not something you talk about much. I maybe mentioned it to one or two other people since, actually, that I've known for a long time. So yeah, but it was a nice moment, and it's sort of really it's something to reflect on when things aren't always great. You can kind of think about that, and kind of be reaffirmed that there is sort of more to this kind of stuff.
I felt that when you were sharing, your heart, it expanded.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it. You could physically, like my intuitive self, I can physically see your heart expand, like you were taking a breath in, like your lungs would expand when you breathe. Your heart was doing the same thing. Like you're definitely connected to your parents. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It's especially weird now, 2 years, like without having either of them around. Like it's kind of, and as a parent myself, like you sometimes kind of now feel like, our parents are kind of what have grounded us to life before in some way, because we kind of come from this. So when they're not around anymore, and everyone goes through that eventually, but I think I've gone through it a little sooner than a lot of people, especially with a young child. It sometimes feels like you're almost out on that raggedy edge of life sometimes, because there's no one you really can turn to, for advice. Hey, this is going on with my kid, or this or that. You're kind of figuring it all out on your own. And so when something like that happens, or to be able to reflect on it, it kind of it reaffirms, well, you're not. You just kind of got to think of them or put yourself in that headspace where you can kind of almost connect with them again in some way. So I know it was neat. Thank you. It was neat to do that just right there, because it felt like that was the first time in a long time that had happened. Well, thank you for sharing. That was beautiful. Thank you. Do you have any siblings? No, I don't. So it's me. So it's been me, and then my wife now. I've been together 12 years. My son who's 9, and I've got some close friends who are more like brothers and a sister that I've never had. But no, through blood, it's just myself, right? And even most of the family on either side. My mom was an only child, so both her parents have passed away, and then on my dad's side, his parents have passed away, and most of his siblings actually, except for a couple. Now, so there's not a lot of us left actually either. So it's a different experience. And my wife's family is very disconnected, if that makes sense. So yeah. Well, at least you have each other and your son. That's exactly. And that's one thing the last 10 months have shown, has really helped as a family. It's helped bond us together, even with all the stuff going on in the world. It's really brought us closer. So you've survived the whole COVID experience and being together that much? Yeah. And you wonder at the beginning, because it's a lot to be together, right? For so long. We've been lucky where we are. We can get out more. Our population's a bit smaller. So for many months over the summer, we could just kind of do whatever as long as we were careful. And we still kind of can. But it definitely hasn't been like life this time last year. That's for sure. It's a very different world. It's getting better. The vaccine's rolling out, and they're saying by summer, fall, be back to some semblance of what life was like before. So we just kind of got to ride it out, and see what happens. So, yeah, that'll be. I don't know if anything should go back to how it was. I hope we're always moving forward, but I agree. Will be completely. Interesting. Yeah, this is an opportunity for us all to get better. I know I'm not going to be the same, and how I look at life and appreciate things has changed. This has definitely made it. You learn what's really important going through experiences like this, as opposed to what wasn't, but you took as important before. Yeah, definitely. And I hope most of us, if not all of us, have taken a step back and prioritized our lives and like you said, what is important, what's not. I know I grew so much this year, and all of the things that I said I'll do one day, I started. Like, why am I saying one day? Let's do this. I said I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that one day when I'm not so busy. Well, I stopped being so busy. So now's the time.
Exactly. Like, I always wanted to write a book. And I'm sure if COVID hadn't happened, I wouldn't have. You know what I mean? Even knowing Peter, it was not yet. It would have been like down the road or waiting, right? And even with the pandemic and not being able to get out for chunks of time to film, we still got a series together and made it work. And when we had the chance to go, we went and we did as much as we could because that's what we want to do, right? And we got some investigations in, and so that was what was important, you know. And the core group of people that matter to you are the ones that are really important, and you see them as whenever you can through these circumstances or however you can, right? Those connections that you make are the most important ones.
Most definitely. I'm glad that you took the time and made those connections and wrote your book. It was going to happen regardless.
It was, dude. Very true.
I'm glad it happened now. So we could go so many directions. You have a lot of experiences, which you've shared some, but I'm interested in how you even began your filmmaking journey. How did that start?
That was, I had always wanted, I was always interested in film. I grew up, Star Wars came out when I was 5, and that pretty much changed my life, just to watch that. The original Star Wars at a drive-in screen in 1977, 5 years old. Blew my mind. And after that, I always wanted to do that in terms of tell stories on film. I just became obsessed with the process. So I became a huge movie fan. I still am. All kinds of movies.
I can't tell by the posters in the background.
Right?
No idea.
Even bad ones like Last Action Hero, you know. So what happened is sort of been Pulp Fiction's classic, Fight Club. Classic. There's more. There's many more all around. In 1983, I was at a 50th birthday roast for an uncle of mine, my dad's younger brother. And his best friend's son had gone to film school. And so they told me that there is this place in Vancouver Film School, that teaches you everything you need to know about movie making. So I basically just applied to go there, saved up the money, and my mom helped put the money together. And I went, and in 94, I had enrolled, I was accepted, and I started. It was like a 1.5 year long program where you learned everything there was to know about making movies. And we made some short films and a documentary. And kind of the biggest claim for that school at that point was Kevin Smith, who had done Clerks and Mallrats and all those kind of movies, had gone there. He'd left. He went for the first half of the program and left. So he was gone about a year before I started. And so when I was there, Clerks had just come out. And so that was kind of the big claim to fame. This guy named Kevin Smith had made a movie called Clerks and got picked up by, Miramax, and had been released, and he had a career. So, and X-Files was filming there in Vancouver at the time that I was going there too. So you'd see them shooting around Vancouver quite a bit. And actually, David Duchovny and I ended up going to see Star Trek Generations. We were in the same theater. He was sitting a few seats down with his mom. And I remember sitting there and just being like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of one of those moments.
I've wanted to meet that man for so long.
He seemed really, I didn't have the courage to go up, but anyone who went up before the movie and would just say hi, he would say hi and sign autographs and stuff. And he was there with his mom at the movie. So that says something about a man, I think. So it was cool. I did the program, and we made some short films, and I ended up working on a couple of short films after that. But it was the 90s. There was no digital. There was no internet, really. And it was really hard to get projects off the ground. And one canister of 8-minute long film was like $10,000. So to go off on your own, and I really wanted to write and direct, it was expensive, and I didn't really have the means to do it. So that whole dream kind of fell apart for a while, and I ended up doing more movie reviews and critiquing and stuff like that. And so it wasn't really until then I met people in the industry and I'd helped them out on projects, but it wasn't really until John said, well, do you want to turn this podcast into a YouTube show that I really, for the first time in a long time, said, yeah, I'll pick up a camera and let's do this again. And it felt like going home. Like I remember getting together with a few of us just to shoot some opening credit stuff, even before we did the main filming. And it was suddenly like, why did I wait this long to do this? Right. But again, I had made the connections I needed to make it possible. I'd gone into journalism, been a journalist. So I knew by that point, after 10 years in the paper, how to do how to interview people, how to do proper research, all this. So really everything, I had the schooling to do film, but I wasn't ready to do it until that moment had come along when I had everything else behind me and the connections to make it work and the crew to put together from the people I'd met doing a film show for so long. So it was almost like when doing the show. It was alignment and even the lifelong interest in the paranormal. It was taking a lifelong interest and all these skills and all these interests, and they all kind of combine in this one thing to work. And it was a beautiful feeling.
Do you believe that before you come here to have this human experience, that you're given different abilities and gifts, and it's part of your journey to figure out what those are and then live that purpose?
If you would ask me that 20 years ago, I'd say no. But yeah,
but now that everything's fallen into place, do you believe that?
I absolutely
Isn't it awesome?
do. It is, and it's one of those things. Like because I've always been good at writing, telling stories, connecting with people, and just knowing how things would look like in terms of like taking pictures and framing stuff. Mm-hmm. I never had an interest in any kind of 9-to-5 existence. I would always hate it. Like I even hated going to school. Just because you were forced to go somewhere every day and it was the same crap you know what I mean? And same, yes. I had even at the paper, it was the freest job I had because as long as you met your deadlines, it didn't really matter, but you still had to go there and you still had to do all this stuff. But I've had office jobs. I've sat in cubicles for hours and I would just be going nuts because I hate this. It wasn't for me, but doing what I do now, there's scary points for sure. Mm-hmm. But because, you don't always know where an income's coming, et cetera, but it's still always, it feels right no matter what else is going on, if that makes sense. So I definitely believe we were given a skill set and we have to find out how to use that properly. That's for sure.
I always believe that if you're living your passion, the universe will always provide. You'll always be taken care of. And maybe that's just the woo-woo in me. I don't know, but from my own experience, what I do is definitely a labor of love. I don't make a lot of money doing what I do. Like I have a metaphysical and new age spiritual healing center that I co-own and manage during the day. But, it's so rewarding, and I never worry about how I'll be taken care of. I just trust that I will be, and I always am. And I think when you fall into your calling and learn what your purpose is, like I keep saying, everything does fall into place. The right people come onto your path, the right equipment or whatever that looks like, everything just ends up working out perfectly. I mean, there are bumps, but you know what I mean. In the whole big scheme of things, it's pretty awesome how it all just falls into place.
I agree, and it's definitely felt like that the last couple of years doing this. Everything has worked out. You know what I mean? There has been, like you said, there's speed bumps, and you are always taken care of. Like things just seem to, when you need something kind of work
Stressful.
Out, it works out. Yeah, and the one thing I found too, because I have a friend who's a counselor, and she says what she always tries to do to help the people that she's helping is to get them closest to their one true self, because she believes as soon as you're at your one true self, you find that peace as well. You're not always arguing with yourself about things. Your doubt goes away. You have your challenges, but it still comes. And I definitely now feel like I am at that point where there's very little doubt. You just do what you can and you make things work, and things do work out the way that they're supposed to. And you feel lucky that you're doing it, something you're passionate about and believe in. Because so many people can't do that or they don't know how. And it's sometimes I feel like I want to try to help those people, but at the same time, they got to figure it out kind of for themselves too, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. I don't think that we learn as easily or as in depth as we could if someone was telling us or showing us the way. We're meant to have those experiences.
You need that. That's how you learn, right?
Yeah.
And I know that's for me. It's been all trial and error almost, but that's what kind of, figure it out. It gets you there. And when you're kind of, I think, telling something, try to, like my mom would always do that. She'd try to tell me what you need to do, but that's her interpretation, what she thinks I need to do. So it's still not the right way to do it. Right. You still got to do it yourself and figure it out your own way. Right. So,
I used to be
I'm
that
excited
mom.
that you've got that. Were you?
No, when my son was younger,
actually.
I'm like, you need to try it this way. Just try it this way. Just because, I didn't. So maybe it'll work for you. Or I did and it worked. So try it. But as he got older, I realized, you know what? That didn't work for me. Why am I trying to do it with him? And now he, he has his own wings and he flew away and he's doing his thing. And it's really neat not to tell him, just to allow him to have his own experiences.
I think as a parent, that's the hardest thing to do.
So hard.
Because you do want to protect and nurture and guide and, impose all this wisdom. But even with my guy at 9, there's only so much you really can. He's going to figure it out. Right. Yeah. And you got to let him be him.
Isn't it exciting?
And, as long as he isn't a jerk to people, and getting in trouble.
No, just raise him to be a good
fine.
human being and everything else will fall into place just as it's meant to.
Exactly. And that's become our focus for sure. Sure.
Good deal. You brought up earlier psychic possession or phenomenon. And do you want to touch on that? Because that's something that you brought up that maybe we could talk about later. And that's a fascinating topic.
It is, and I'm still not sure what to make of it. If that makes sense, right? What are your thoughts on it? Obviously, you do your own thing that way.
Well, like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm around a lot of different types of intuitives doing what I do during the day. I have that opportunity, and it's interesting to me, and I've questioned it many times, not from others, but also with myself, about coincidences. I like to believe that nothing is a coincidence. However, at what point and how do we figure out how these downloads are happening and the accuracy thereof? It just blows my mind. I don't really have like a solid opinion. It's one of those things I think we'll know when we know, and it won't be here. But the abilities that some people have are just, there's no other way to explain them other than they have them, because the proof and validation is right there in most cases.
No, I've definitely seen that. I know even through like I mentioned, my journalistic instinct, it's just been there. I don't know where it came from. And I only really discovered it doing journalism, but it's not to say it wasn't there before. But where does it come from? Why? And the same with, just being empathy, being able to pick up on feelings of other people, even though you're not them, but you know how you can feel their mood in the room. So I think there's something to it. I don't know where, like you say, where does it come from? How does it work? And why do some people have it? And I think like we were talking about with paranormal investigations, there are those people who claim to be psychic, but they're using it for their own benefit. They're not. They're just good con artists. And I think they ruin it for those who are true psychics. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
As with anything, there's just far too much of that. And I think it gives people with legitimate abilities a bad name, and it creates that doubt in the public. Again, right? That they just discount anyone who says that they are, because, prove it that you can see this or that this is happening. You can't do that. It's a feeling that you get. Well, where do you think it comes from? Like, where do is it coming from? I
believe that we're all connected. I really do. And we all have the ability. It's just tapping into it and getting really clear with it. I know a lot of people say there's no way I have it. There's just no way, but I don't believe that. I believe we all come here with the ability to see and feel and know things with, all the clair abilities, the clairaudience, clairsentience, whatever that may be. And it's like a muscle. We strengthen it. So the more you practice it, the more strong you become, the more you work on yourself and connect to your divine essence, the being, your purpose, whatever that looks like. I feel like that muscle just gets stronger and stronger. And unfortunately, there are so many people who want to have it without doing the work, and therefore mess with other people's emotions. Like you were saying, there's so many phonies out there. They do it for monetary reasons or whatever their reason is, which is just definitely unfair. But I also believe that people are born with it and have it their entire lives. And I don't know if the rhyme or reason behind it, and I don't know where it comes from or why it happens here as humans, but I believe it's something that we all have in the spirit world, and some of us bring it into our human experiences throughout our whole lives, and some of us have like a remembering that that's who we are and tap into that ability. And there's several abilities, so it's not like one particular ability.
Yeah, definitely, because it there's people that have used it in many different ways. Like you say, there's not just one. Some people can see the dead, and some people can pick up on aura. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different ways that it's used, or it's just instinct or intuition. There's a book by Colin Wilson called The Occult, which is fascinating. It's a 500-page book, and it's a heavy read. But he calls it Faculty X. And he said, like what you said, everybody has Faculty X in them. And it was way more prevalent amongst people when we were all living in the woods or on the plains, and you had every day was life and death, and you had to find food, and you didn't know where you were going to stay. So you were tuned into that. It would protect you and help you. But as we became more sophisticated and more industrialized, it's just people haven't been using it because there's lights and noise and cell phones and video games, and there's just no need to tap into it anymore, except for the people who, like yourself, who do want to know more, people who are, like you say, have done the work on who they are and, built themselves a better person, and start to see that around them and see the lack of coincidence, you know what I mean, in things. I think that's part of, being, if you want to call it being psychic, like you say, knowing your path and just knowing how to listen to it. Like you tap into the vibe of, like on, what was that show, True Detective? You're riding like the great wave of the universe or whatever, right? Like you just kind of know when you're on that right path. And I think that's Faculty X showing you that you're on the right, you've clued into what your purpose here in life is. And once you've done that, you start to feel the other things and start to feel that connection with other people, because you can connect. You're right. And I fought this for a long time, especially when I was a journalist. I was a crime reporter for 10 years. So I saw every ugly thing that ever happened to anybody ever in a decade, and every accident, every fire, every murder, and talked to, the victims of murder, the families who had been murdered or died in an accident. So you get a very ugly view of the world. And after a while, you don't want to connect with people because you think they're all jerks. And, this year has shown that a lot. But we are supposed to connect to each other. We are all sharing this experience. And so I think a lot of people don't want, it's like believing in the paranormal. They don't want to feel that connection because, once again, they're not as in control of their lives as they thought, and they're more responsible for their actions because you're impacting other people.
Yeah.
I believe someone, if they're thinking about you and they're half a town away, you can feel them thinking about you, and I'm sure it's vice versa, right? You just get a feeling, or they pop into your head and like, why would I think of that? I haven't thought of that person in weeks. Why would they suddenly be in my head? Well, because there's that connection there. And that's something I've really started to kind of tap into and think about again in this year when we've been so separated from each other. So yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think it's something that's been a part. It's a natural part of the human experience. We just haven't been using it properly for a few hundred years. Now, I mean, for various reasons,
for a very long time. But I feel like now more than ever, even with such a technical world that we live in, all this technology and whatnot, I believe that people are starting to question. I believe that people are becoming more in tune with the vibration of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I know just because where I work during the day, we have people come in new every day. They're looking for answers. They're wanting to know more about spirituality. They're wanting to know about, crystals or meditation or connecting to themselves or whatever that looks like. And it's been more this year than I've seen it any other time. And I've been doing this for a while now. And it just blows my mind. Like, why did it take us so long? And how much longer is it going to take for us to come back home to ourselves? And really, it's just such a beautiful thing. I mean, nobody's perfect. We're all on our path. We're right in the exact place we're meant to be in this very moment, each and every one of us. There are no accidents. But I do believe this year that more than ever, people are definitely waking up. They're wanting to know. And so shows like yours and books like yours where people are wanting to know those answers, these are the types of tools that are going to be super beneficial with us and going forward.
I agree. And this year, I think, what was it, like reports of hauntings have gone up 20% or something because people are home,
really?
right? And I think they're more aware. And same with UFO sightings have increased this year too.
Oh, yeah.
Like yeah.
I think they've always been there. People are just paying attention.
I think it's this year's forced us to do that. And I think it ties into why people want to know more answers, because I think when you have something like a global event like this that shuts the whole planet down, you start to really question the world you're in and what's going on around us. This could have gone horribly wrong.
Yeah.
We could, they even worse than it already has. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like it could have.
yes.
It could have. I think it could have been so much worse. Experts were predicting breakdown in food supply chains. You know, like the way they were predicting the collapse of society, and it didn't happen, thankfully, but it could have. And I think when something like this happens on such a large scale, people pause and they really wonder, is this it? Because if this is it, this isn't enough, and it kind of sucks. You know, I think a lot of the time for people, right? So they want to know more about what's happening around them. They want to know if something happens after they die. And I think when they lose that connection, they really start to feel that need to connect with everybody. And that draws people to wanting to then experience the human experience more, I think.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't agree more. We have a question from the chat room, and you brought up people staying in their homes more and seeing activity because they're more present in their homes and more aware. And I know you did kind of touch on this a little bit earlier, but for the sake of the listener, I want to ask the question. And then, of course, it went away. I'm like, it was in here. He probably took it away because I didn't ask it, because they can do that. But basically, the question was, do you get very many calls for house investigations?
Yeah, we do. There's a lot of calls for residential investigations, more so, than commercial. Because I think it's people's homes, right? And if they have things happening, they want answers to it, and that's what we try to do. A lot of the times, it is just something it's a common thing in the house that's causing it. There isn't anything paranormal, but there are those times when it does turn out to be something. And at that point, we attempt to validate, I guess, as much as possible what the homeowner's experiencing and try to bring them some sense of peace about it. Because at that point, it's really up to them. Like we aren't exorcists. We don't exorcise the house or anything like that. We sort of try to give the homeowner options. A lot of the times, the homeowners, once they kind of know what it is, they're content to kind of have it go on as long as it isn't messing with them.
Right.
Then there are other times where, we just sort of, the best way to kind of make it go away is to ignore it. In a lot of cases, it's there for attention. Well, if you stop paying attention, it'll get frustrated and hopefully go away. Or at least so far. Or you can, there are of course other cases where there's something much more malicious happening. I personally haven't been in a residential haunting where it has been something malicious. I know Peter has. And people eventually move. Like they just eventually move if they can. We also try to provide answers. There's even a story in the book about an investigation where a family was experiencing a haunting through investigations, like using spirit boxes, etc. We did get a name, and it turned out the name did fit a girl who had died in a house fire in the neighborhood who was babysitting at the time. It was one of the kids in the house that was seeing this. So we figure that because this person in life, Sandra, I think was her name, Cassandra, but the name on the spirit box was Sandra, was used to babysitting and watching children. This family lived nearby where she had passed away. They had small children, so she was like keeping an eye on the children. Once you kind of give someone that information, they realize it's not something malicious. Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier to accept what's going on in your house.
I could see how that would be true.
Yeah.
A lot more comforting.
I haven't been to a house yet, though, where it's been something really bad. So, I mean, it's so far so good.
Do you get a lot of calls for investigations where you're at?
We're starting to get them more here in the interior. I know at the coast, it's crazy. Like, teams are going out every weekend.
Really?
If we weren't in lockdown, they would be. And even here in the interior, there's periods where it's like we have something we could do again every weekend. Like we typically go Friday or Saturday night. And we'll go sometimes 2-3 weeks in a row, have a little bit of a break, and then another spurt of them. But in a big center like Vancouver, it's all the time. All the time, people are seeing stuff. And it's frustrating right now because we can't, we can't go anywhere and help people. Like we just, talk on the phone and try to give them the best advice possible.
Yeah, that would be frustrating. Yeah, hopefully soon. I mean, nothing is normal per se right now. That's frustrating in of itself, but especially when you have this willingness and desire to help someone else and your hands are tied, there's really not much you can do.
Exactly. And that's why that's the primary reason why I know I started doing this out of an interest, but once you start doing it as an organized group, going into people's homes or businesses, you want to help them more just to understand or to allay their fears or to show them that it's really nothing. And you've just watched too many, Conjuring movies and got an idea in your head about what this could be. But the primary thing is to help people, bring them some peace one way or the other is important. And it kind of, we got to do a bit of that over the summer, but right now, like we're just in a holding pattern, probably till spring, late spring. And so we'll just see what happens.
You have your hands I can't even talk right now. You have your hands in a lot of projects, right now. You're doing a lot of different things. What's the greatest thing that you do that brings you the most happiness? Like what's so great about being Jason?
Oh man. I mean, right now, honestly, like it's being a parent, right? Like just being able to be there. And that was one thing, like my son was home with us for 10 solid months and that will never happen again. Like that was just an amazing kind of gift to spend that time with him and for us to be together as a family. So that is like, being a parent, being a husband, that like first and foremost is the best part of my life right now. It's the most important part. I feel very lucky that now, partly out of circumstance, but now just the way it's going to be going forward, I can do everything I do from home. So I'm home every day. So I'm with, we all get up at the same time. He does his schooling. I'm around when he's done his schooling. My wife works from home too. So I'm in my basement office. She's got her office upstairs. So we're together. And that's a fantastic thing to be able to have that. And it looks like this will be the way it'll be even once the new normal or new world kind of kicks into gear once everyone's most people are vaccinated. So that to me is the most important part. But then it's just to be on this ride, like to work with someone like Peter, who's done this for 27 years and to learn from him. And for us, to do our show or even just to do our investigations with our group is great. Like we really miss that because the core group of people we put together is really, really good. To do the show, to write the book. I mean, I've been doing From the Basement now 11 years. Like we start our 11th year this Friday, my buddy Sean and I. So to be able to work with, he's been my brother for more than a quarter of a century. So to be able to do something, you know what I mean? To do something like that with someone for 11 years and we still like each other, and talk to each other is pretty cool. So that's so yeah, there's the family part, and then there's like the rest of it, but it's all, I can't separate one piece of that from the other, because they're all equal importance. And I just feel really, really lucky to be able to do all of it right now.
Sounds fantastic. You've had quite a journey so far. You'll have plenty more experiences.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm counting on it.
Really
it feels
quick. Go ahead.
No, it feels like it took so long to get there. I mean, it took as long as it was supposed to. That I want to ride the wave as long as I can, kind of thing.
Yeah, and you will. You definitely will.
Thank you.
You have a bright future ahead of you, and I love that you're sharing with the world all of the many things that you do and with great people. Sounds like you have an awesome support system. Really quick, I did want to, you brought up From the Basement, and that's not something that we talked about. That's your podcast?
It started as a podcast. It's now a primetime radio show, and it's an entertainment show. Half hour, we review latest movie releases, TV releases, and talk about them. It's all with a bit of irreverent humor to it. We try to keep it pretty light. Yeah. And so we've been doing that. That's 11th year kicking off. Yeah. On Friday with our
That's incredible.
latest episode, which is radionl.com and here in Canada. So
radionl.com.
Yeah.
All right. Make sure you guys take note and have a listen. And where are the other places that listeners can find you?
For the book, I Want to Believe, One Man's Journey into the Paranormal, is available on Amazon.com and .ca and Barnes & Noble through Beyond the Fray Publishing. We Want to Believe, the series, you can find at Joe Blow Horror Videos on YouTube. And we're also a presence on Facebook. We Want to Believe the series. As AJ mentioned, there's a page and a group. The page is kind of your best bet to find stuff. And then From the Basement can be found at WeCameFromTheBasement.com. And we also post episodes of We Want to Believe up on there as well, because it's kind of the same crew working on the show has been doing the radio program and podcast as well. So that's where you can find me. And on Instagram, I guess, at Hewlitt72. Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep track of all of them. I did have a
challenging time finding you on Facebook and Instagram, and it wasn't until you sent me a friend request that I found you. So that was something that maybe you should know, because I looked for you everywhere.
And it's funny because I don't know why, but I know there's another Jason Hewlitt out there who's an entertainer. He seems to get more of the press, I guess, that way. Yep. So that might be the problem. No. But definitely on Facebook at Jason Hewlitt as well. Perfect.
It was such a fun time hanging out with you and hearing about your life. And thank you for showing up and being vulnerable with us.
Oh, thank you. So I've had a fantastic time. This has been a real blast, AJ, and I'm really thankful for it. And thank you for being such an amazing host and so gracious. It's been great.
Thank you. So wonderful. It's so good. And we'll have to have you back when we hear about your next book being released with Peter. That'll be great.
Absolutely. I would love that very much. I'd love that very much.
You guys have been listening to Soul Wanderings here on KGRA Radio. Make sure that you're following us on kgradb.com and share with your friends and family. Let's keep having these amazing conversations that bring awareness and connection into our experiences. Thanks for being here with us tonight. Good night, Wanderers.